All right, and hello, and welcome back to another great episode of the Radio Backrooms. Forgot the name of our own podcast for a second there. Off to a great start. So I have with me today two different members of the Wiki staff. Which one of you would like to introduce yourselves first?
I can go first. So, I'm Birch. I've been with the Wiki for about 4 months here. And yeah, I'm a staff, do a lot of critiquing and writing and all that. Yeah.
Awesome. So,
My name is Sinjin. I've been in the Backrooms Wiki community for about maybe 8 or 9 months now. I've written some pretty well-known stuff on the Wiki. I created the Blackfire Cannon, I created the Penumbras, and a bunch of other random stuff.
and I am Rat. I was there in the last episode, though in the last episode I mentioned I was a moderator, and now I'm one of the admins on the site. So, yay, promotion! And
There you go.
stuff I've made, suddenly I've forgotten every single thing I've written ever. I've written Entity 89. I wrote the Entity 18 rewrite, and I also wrote Level 90 and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, so today's episode topic, if we can even stay on topic for more than 10 minutes, is groups of interests or factions. So stuff like the m.e.g, because I refuse to pronounce it m.e.g.
I think most people refuse to pronounce it that way.
Trying to think of other examples. The cartographers.
Cartographers?
Yeah.
Cartographer! Oh, no.
Sorry. In my defense, English is not my first language, so I may not pronounce things great. Parce que je suis francophone. Oui, oui, baguette. And I'm even working on my own group of interest, though I keep putting that on the back burner because I am a very good, productive writer. So why don't we start talking about the staple group of the Wiki that most everybody knows about, the m.e.g. How do we feel about them?
They're generic, but I mean,
they're generic, but they're generic, but that does mean they're very flexible.
They still very strongly smell of their origins as just an SCP clone.
Yeah.
They do.
Although I can say that they're a good filler group. Like if you want an article from a certain perspective, but you don't really know who to write it from, the m.e.g is a good default. Be like, yep, that allows for a few things. Like it excuses the clinical tone because they're kind of writing their own database, and there are a few characters that you can use with the m.e.g, like the overseers, but other than that, they still need to find some sort of personality, I think. Like the problem is that everybody has slightly different interpretations of them, which I understand because of the no canon thing, but at the same time, there can only be so many ways each different user interprets a specific group until the group has no solid identity and nobody knows how to write them consistently. So in one article there'll be a huge militaristic group, and in another article there'll just be a group of 20 something randos just trying their best. So
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I'm definitely glad.
Differences, totally. Yes, slight difference.
Yep.
Definitely glad that people are going away from the militarized m.e.g thing, because military m.e.g just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this is the Backrooms. I don't think we have the proper resources to have an organized military.
I mean, I'm not entirely on board with the whole, like, just full-on militarized idea. I totally think that they could be, like, pretty well organized and, like, have
Yeah.
the supplies and resources necessary to be as supposedly powerful as they are, but I don't know about the whole leaning towards just complete and total military control thing, because, again, that's the cartographers.
How I interpret the m.e.g is, like, they started out as, like, very disorganized and just a bunch of random people who just wanted to help each other out, but, like, as time went on, more and more people wanted to join. So, like, there was the original group that was probably, like, a bunch of, like, I'd like to think people who had, like, some knowledge with, like, computers and stuff and doodads, but as time went on, like, uh, random wanderers want to join in and help them, and those are, like, the main explorers of the group that do most of, like, the exploring, so that the more tech savvy guys can, like, write their information. And so it kind of grew quickly because, sometimes things aren't always horrible. Sometimes humans just want to help each other out, and that's how we have the m.e.g that is today, uh, the m.e.g that we have today, which I feel like would be semi-organized, like how they present themselves. You think they're very organized, but they're like half as organized as they actually present themselves, if that makes sense. But they're trying their best, and that's what matters. Yeah. So, um, other than that, I feel like literally every other group of interest besides the m.e.g is just underutilized.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Though I feel like it's partly because they also haven't really s- had have had their footing yet. Like, we haven't had that many like striking articles with many other groups of interest, which is a shame because we sure do have a few. um,
Yeah,
um,
bit of a pandemic of groups of interest, if you ask me.
yeah. Um, but I feel like what we need here is a bit more variety, which, like, like most of the groups of interest we have now that are currently on site and not like being worked on are just like are kind of the same thing. Like they're just like humans who are exploring and putting things in databases, but like in different fonts, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
And I feel like they need to have like more established lore around them, and a lot of them do need like more development and stuff.
Yeah, I
And
feel like a
Mhm.
few of them aren't really all that well fleshed out, like, on the
yeah,
actual site, my own
yeah,
group included.
yeah, like the Splinter, I don't know what goes on there. Like I from what I know about it, it's just the m.e.g but evil and fucked up.
Yep. Chaos Insurgency m.e.g, basically.
Yeah, and then there's the BNTG, which, how the hell what constitutes as national in the back rooms? Like,
Yeah,
True.
and I feel like there is stuff to
the
be
name
done
probably
with.
should be touched up a bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
know.
do definitely think Wesbot has some really good ideas for like BNTG stuff, and I'm excited to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what
yeah,
they
yeah,
write
yeah.
for it.
Those who
Yeah.
don't know, Wesbot's a surprisingly active member of the Discord, so
Yeah, I do remember they proposed a slightly different name to the BNTG that kept the initials the same, but but changed the word national because that what constitutes as national in the backrooms? There are no established countries. This is a hell maze where
watch a cart
I
watch, like, "Yeah, what constitutes as national in the back rooms?" The cartographer scout just kicks down the door. "Let me tell you!"
and, though I do like that we are slowly starting to differ away from the humans exploring just in different fonts thing with their groups, like, Breeze, fuck, I Backrooms Modeling Co., which is
Backrooms Remodeling Company, yeah.
yeah, which I believe is the first which I believe is the first group of interest to be on site that does not have any humans and is mainly entities.
True, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to work on another one as we speak that's going to be based around the Kingdom of the Lost, so.
Yay. I'm
We get a Penumbra group, hell yeah.
my admittedly the group of interest I'm working on is also mainly comprised of humans, but I'm making up for it by making like the theming very clear, like they are not just some random people wandering about. I've mentioned it in the Discord server a few times or so.
Oh
But
yeah, you're freaking live action role players?
yeah, they're just a bunch of role players in the backrooms that are so dedicated to staying in character, that even when their lives are in danger, they'll still stay in character because I think that is a hilarious concept.
And I'm again, I really have to apologize to you, but every single time you bring them up, the first image I immediately get is just like one of them just trying to run up to a Penumbra like clad in armor and wielding a sword or something, and then the Penumbra just freaking laughs silly at them.
Honestly, that would be very interesting to write. And also, my group of interest is also kind of an excuse to steer away from the typical format we've already established on the website, because I feel like there's so much to do, and like every article being in clinical tone kind of doesn't make sense. So I want more
Yeah.
excuses to not write in clinical tone. So once I gain the motivation to write for them again, I promise my role playing group of interest will be real eventually. Eventually.
Yeah, I really should get around to start writing more stuff for the cartographers. It's just, if anything, I need to just go back and freaking touch up their G.O.I. page because
Yeah, a lot of
someone even pointed out that like for some people the page isn't even freaking readable thanks to the font I used.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because it's one of those like copy and paste fonts and not like an actual like font that
back before eToil taught everyone how to dink around with CSS.
Yep, that was I also think that the group of interest page in general, like the hub, needs to be fixed a bit,
Oh
because
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why each different like section of these groups can't just be on their own page.
No.
Like I feel like a much better, cleaner way to have the hub page organized is just have like the name and a brief summary of what they do.
Yeah, the G.O.I. hub is a hot mess right now.
Yeah, because right now,
so are a lot of things.
yeah, we the the wiki dot is in shambles.
Yeah.
There's always like every few days or so someone pointing out, hey, this page is kind of really outdated, or hey, this page is broken, and I just have to be like, we're working on it. I promise.
Yeah, I remember like a month ago, I made like a list of all the like guides and like which ones needed work, and it was like all of them needed work.
Yeah, because the problem is that the original guide pages, they're either one, extremely poorly written, or two, stolen from the SCP wiki, which for clarification, the current admins of the wiki right now, we do not want this. That's why we're trying to get to rewriting these guides when we can, because copy and pasting your guides from just another wiki straight up is not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're working on it. Now what else was I gonna say? I was going to say something, but I completely forgot because I am so great at this. I yeah, the group of interest page hub right now is a hot mess, as someone else mentioned earlier. I have extremely poor memory. Yeah, Sinjin mentioned it was a hot mess, and I think what does not help with just every group of interest kind of just most of them just being the same sort of thing in different fonts is the fact that like how it's organized is just like the group and like different factions of it, and it just all blends together, and it's
Mhm.
just you don't really get anything about the group itself on the hub page, which which is like what the hub page is for you to find
Yeah.
out what these things are, but they don't really tell you much other than there sure are different categories to these groups for reasons.
And I think the worst part is, like, a lot of the coolest groups are just, like, shoved down at the bottom in, like, a mysterious group
Yeah,
section.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, because, they're mostly there because they don't have their own factions and stuff. So,
Basically.
like, we can't just do this. We can't do this to our best material.
Yeah.
Even I'm still like, what is a Men of Letters 3? What is that?
Yeah,
Men of Letters 3 should probably just be deleted. Nobody
Yeah.
has ever written for it, and it is literally just someone's like, what if we put SCP in the Backrooms?
Yeah,
Which I mean is already m.e.g, but
yeah, like we don't need two SCP but Backrooms G.O.I.s, especially since I'm pretty sure Men of Letters 3 is like even more blatant about it because
yeah.
when we were doing a bit of spring cleaning a while ago, um I remember like there was this one page that was like completely outdated, hadn't been touched in over 200 days, and it was just like a list of like quote unquote slang used in the back rooms for like writing purposes, I guess. I don't know. And there was a thing mentioned like Men of Letters 3, and it was like this means like things like the SCP Foundation because 3 letters, and I was like, "Oh no. Oh
Oh dear.
no."
But no, the worst part of that page though was it was like it's things like SCP and RPC.
Oh
They specifically listed both of them.
But
So yeah.
no. No. Oh my god.
right to the
Oh,
ground. Put it all to the ground.
every day, I am beyond thankful that the administration of this website, no, full 180, because God,
Yeah, yeah.
could you imagine if the old admin team was still around? Jesus
I know,
Christ.
yeah.
Oh
Jesus
no.
Christ. That is that the staff team right now is evidence that we do not live in the worst possible timeline.
True, yeah.
It because like, oh god, I I I wasn't there when like the old staff team was still around, but from things I hear, I am very thankful I wasn't around then
Mhm.
because
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was pure freaking chaos back then. Like the mod team back then didn't care enough. They were so just completely ridiculously lenient with what went on the site that they allowed like meglog 6969 to be a thing.
oh god. Oh. Oh.
And you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and say that maybe we shouldn't go further into detail about the complete sin that I wrote.
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah.
It was deleted for a reason. So, um, uh,
There's that little bit of info for all you who were wondering who the hell wrote that piece of shit.
so, back to the topic of groups of interest. I just want to lean in to the viewers listening on to this and just say, please look into more groups of interest that aren't the Meg. Please.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say this for everyone who's interesting right now. We already have a ton of groups on the GOI hub. Find one that fits what you want to do in your story and just go with that. For the love of everything, please just stop writing new ones just to use them one time only in something you're writing.
Please, we do not need another group that is just explorer men in different fonts. Like mine is vaguely like that, but in my defense, it introduces a different format of writing because I plan on their entries to be very much more like journal entries rather than like formal database entries. So if you're going to do Explorer Men in different fonts, at least do something creative with their formatting.
Yeah, like, because
Mhm.
I don't know about you guys, but like me, back within like the first month or two of me, being on the wiki and just trying to get started on writing Labyrinthian, I was just like, because at the time there were really only two options. There was the m.e.g and the CultReich, which thank God is gone. But
Yeah, we don't talk about the CultReich.
They do not
get those
exist.
Nazis. Why are there Nazis in my backrooms? Who put them there? Get them out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, those were the only two options. You either
Oh,
had the
God.
SCP clone or the SCP, but no
Literal
group clone.
Nazis.
Yeah.
Literally, that's the only thing they had going for them. And Scratch's head.
And I was just looking at them and was like, okay, yeah, how about none of those? And I just decided, you know what, I need a middle ground. I need someone that could potentially be both, depending on what context they're being used in. And then that's when I thought up, hey, what if I just made this ridiculously imperialistic group that was just almost cartoonishly militaristic and just threw them in there and let everyone have at that?
There you go.
Now they've become the CultReich's replacement, so.
I also think another category that should be avoided mostly because like we already have one thing like it. Unless you have a really good spin on it, you probably shouldn't do it because it'll just be a clone of the other, and that is a cult focused around specific entity. And we already have
True.
followers of Jerry.
Even the
You
followers
can't.
of Jerry isn't really being used all that much.
Yeah, and it's a little bit sad because they are like absurdist in the best possible way. They worship just a bird. Like I think there should be a lot more just absurdist shit in the backrooms, and we have a GOI that is just completely absurd because it's just a bunch of grown adults worshiping a singular bird, and
Mhm.
people do absolutely nothing with it. Yet I've seen at least like 2 people try and reinvent cult that worships entity, and I've been trying to do and I've been like working in my head a way to like put a spin on like the cult trope that is sort of common in like writing spaces like this. Like I know there are a few cult G.O.I.s and SCP as well. Um, I'm trying to find a way to put an interesting spin on it, and I'm not confident enough in my ideas to like share anything involving it, but I'm hoping someday I can make a group that's like that type of trope, but like in an interesting way, you know?
Yep.
Like have them worship something that isn't an entity, you know? Which is like
Yeah.
the bare
Yeah.
minimum. Like I feel like there are many tropes that are commonly used in backroom stuff that are only tropes because they're very underutilized and they can be used well, but no one knows how to write them correctly, you know?
Mhm.
That's the problem with having like your own essentially infant version of what SCP did, but supposedly cooler.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just oh great, now you're bringing in all the people who couldn't make it in that community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
So your writing's probably going to be on par with when that other community started.
yeah, but at least I've mentioned this in the last episode, I believe. Um we have at the very least been improving at a much faster rate than the
Yeah,
SCP
like
wiki did
I'd say
because
that like back at the start of the year when like oh not really the start of the year, but like half point of last year when I first joined, the writing on the website was very much still like around
yeah,
2008 era SCP
yeah,
quality.
like I I am still not over the fact that the wiki used to just straight up not allow anything outside of clinical tone. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like I feel like if it kept going that way, that would have been the downfall of the wiki, so I'm glad that that's just been abandoned, because, like, the reason SCP is still relevant these days is because they're 'cause they started shifting to less of just, "Ooh, scary monster thing," to, "Ooh, monster thing, but it shifts into actually telling a narrative," or, "Ooh, there is actually no monster, but there is actually a very compelling narrative to this." So, like, it's very much shifted to a more narrative, um, type,
Mm.
like, it's a narrative hidden inside of a clinical tone article, and if the
I
wiki
just kind of get the weird feeling that SCP is just stumbling over itself, trying to figure out how the hell to keep itself alive at this point.
but, like, SCP stayed alive because of, like, the narrative focus in the articles that made people, like, intrigued in these type of things. Meanwhile, Backrooms was just eh, used to just be stating things in a very dry, matter-of-fact way that was just not really interesting, and that's why, like, articles like, The Game Master stood out, because the Game Master was, like, an actual character with, like, personality and stuff, and wasn't just, "This generic monster can be found in level 22, and it kills you if you look at it for too long." Uh
Yeah.
That's why a lot of my levels have done well, honestly, because I keep finding just really weird shit to throw in them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and, like, I feel like with, like, more of a hint to, like, narratives in articles, that's how you keep people intrigued. Like, that like, for example, uh, level 90, you don't like it because it's just a house. You like it because it's told in an interesting way, and it's like whoever's writing this article in universe is trying to advertise it to you, you know?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
And I feel like even more so. So like in early SCP days before they did narratives, right? They at least had like a bunch of like interesting concepts. And the
yeah.
thing with like earlier backrooms is some of the concepts were interesting, but like a lot of it was just empty office building number
Yeah,
703 or something
yeah.
like that.
Or it was generic killing monster, crazy kills you, haha. Like, half of the stuff, like, left over from the fandom wiki era can just be either rewritten completely or just discarded,
Yeah.
honestly. And I'm glad we're finally
Burn the
getting
fandom to the
around.
ground. Burn
I'm
the fandom to
honestly
the ground.
glad. I'm very glad we're slowly sifting through the articles that are still left over from the fandom era and just, um, and just either rewriting them or just completely redoing them. 'Cause, God,
Mhm.
like, insanities?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
insanities,
That's a yikes right there.
yeah, they feel very 2010 creepypasta, like, just from the name alone, insanities.
Yeah.
That is so silly. How am I supposed to find something called an insanity horrifying? I had an edgy phase on 2014 DeviantArt. That word means nothing to me now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna dig into myself here now. Capgrass, the freaking reskinned skin stealer Jeff the Killer wannabe.
yay. Um, I'm gonna be honest here, whenever I hear the name, Capgrass, I just think of the Willwood and the Tapeworm song. Um, I forget the full name, but I do hold on, let me look this up on my phone, because it has a long title, because Willwood songs are like that. Um, I okay, so whenever whenever capgrasses are mentioned, I just think of the Willwood song called, warning, this song title is much longer than I remember it and has a lot of long words that I'm probably going to butcher. It's the song Mr. Capgrass Encounters a Secondhand Vanity. Tulpamancer's prosopagnosia pareidolia as direct result of trauma to the fusiform gyrus. It's a good song, though. Very good song, though.
I was
but
honestly just basing the name Capgrass off like the. Ooh, I don't. Now I'm thinking about it. The origin, the place I got the name from, might be a little iffy. Now that I think about it. I yoinked the name from like the name of an actual medical condition.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that can either go like both ways. Like,
Because I mean, it's honestly, it's I was
eh.
at the time that I wrote it, I was like in this headspace where I was like, okay, so goes around like stealing people's identities and then essentially replacing our people, which is what people suffering from Capgras delusion think is going on, is that someone they know has been replaced with a complete imposter. And at the time I was also thinking, okay, well, this works a lot like changelings and stuff, because like the changelings from Celtic folktales and all that stuff. And now that I'm actually looking back at it, I'm realizing, oh wait, maybe that wasn't such a great idea.
Yeah, mental illness and horror is a touchy subject, but like it makes sense. Like, even if it is a little iffy, like oh yeah, identity theft, the entity makes sense. Meanwhile, insanities are based off just a subject, an element of the wiki that should have been ditched a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because sanity, that's like one of the most gamey elements of the entire wiki. Like, ooh, if your sanity drains, you become a scary monster. Ooh, like
I absolutely despise the concept of the freaking sanity meter. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this isn't a video game. In universe, this is real life, and it's also very subjective. Like
Yeah.
whether or not someone is mentally stable is just can be very much up to interpretation. And like I don't know if the Backrooms as a thing knows my mental health better than I do.
Yeah.
just the concept that the Backrooms as a whole, like sentient entity, entity zero, etc., that it like just knows how your brain works enough that if you're just mentally ill enough, you just become spooky, scary monster. Ooh, it's just really hilarious. And just how am I supposed to take this shit seriously?
I
Yeah.
honestly don't see the point in any zero being on the wiki, because it's just like
I mean,
Yeah, it could be better.
it's interesting because it does present the Backrooms as its like whole thing, like and I think that's interesting, but I haven't actually read the article in a while because I don't really.
The idea that the Backrooms is sentient could be cool, but again, I haven't really seen anyone go that angle yet. So
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point of view to go with. We just need somebody to write it. Like there's so many things on the wiki that are interesting in theory, hypothetically, but they're never actually written. So,
Yeah.
and God, I
Also,
already have.
Sinjin, so you said that you've never seen anyone make the backroom sentient. Well, it's funny because I actually have a draft that's awaiting greenlit, where like part of it is actually written by the backrooms.
Oh, that sounds cool as hell. That that sounds cool as hell. I you the draft's been sent in the it needs it's a finished draft, right?
It is, yeah.
I'll need to check that out once we're done recording this. 'Cause that does sound actually pretty interesting.
Yep.
What else can we touch upon in this episode?
Could probably talk a little bit more about like specific groups of interest because
Oh,
there
yes,
are
yes,
some
yes.
other ones that might have potential.
Yes, like the Backrooms Remodeling Co., which I think is currently the newest group of interest to be introduced, and so far the one that stands out the most because like I mentioned much earlier, it's not just humans exploring, but in a different font. It's like a whole company that it's a whole company made out of entities that work for remodeling the backrooms and all that. And I think that's really that's really interesting. And I've actually written like level 90 is intended as a level for that GUI, and I've actually thought of writing a second level for that GUI that's essentially the antithesis to the first one I wrote for them. And I just think it's a really fun concept to play around with, and I really hope more people, other than just Bree and myself, start writing for it because I think it's really interesting and you can do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I suppose I could suggest like I don't know, maybe a POI that's connected to a group of interest. I don't know. How about the one that we have? How about the one that's so far connected to like 3 once I finish Lost?
That Byron Shields.
Byron Shields.
Byron Shields. I actually need to read the stuff about him because I'm not up to date with the POI contest entries. I have not read a good chunk of them, which, by the way, dear listeners, I think by the time this episode is posted, the voting period should still be going on. So if it is, by the time this is posted, um, you guys should check that out. Yay! But yeah.
Shields does not have to put up with Game Master's constant whining just to lose the contest.
Yay! um, the two persons of interest I've written so far have zero connection to any GUI, so maybe in the future I'll write a character that is actually connected to a GUI for once. Um,
Mhm.
that would be nice. That would be a nice challenge for me.
Yeah, it didn't really dawn on me how like kind of ridiculous Shields actually is as a character until like after I'd already written all his entries. It's just
Yeah.
like his entire page is just like, oh my god, these guys went and attacked a bunch of people, and there's blood on their hands. What will I do to stop this and try and bring about peace and prosperity throughout the backrooms? I know, a strongly worded letter.
Yay! Also, I'm looking at the groups page right now, and so there's at the end in the mysterious group section. Ooh, there's a thing called malware, and it's hidden, and there's nothing written about it yet.
Yeah. I think Stretch had plans for it, but never actually wrote anything for it, so it's just there.
Stretch, if you're listening, please, please, because a group named malware is very ominous, but I like it. It's an ominous name that I like, so I'd like to see what's up with them. And oh, the reverence, that's Evfist's thing. Ooh, that is too long for me to read right now in my head during this
Fair,
episode.
fair. I think
Um,
reverence are kind of an interesting concept. No one else has ever written for it, as far as I know, except for Evfist. But basically, just like some mysterious group that's like just causing chaos, and
oh,
nobody
I
really
love
knows
that.
what they are.
Huge fan of whatever
Mhm.
they do.
Can
That sounds
I just-
sarcastic, but I'm genuine. I like it when people are just a little twisted for fun or for no known reason. There's also Backrooms Robotics that seems very interesting. I know it's a thing that Yellow mainly writes for, considering like I think the leader of them is Yellow's author Avatar. Um, though I find it like I'm just looking at the page right now, and it's just very odd how like all the like the main characters and groups, instead of being in the actual GOI pages, I feel like would be great because it like actually adds more substance to the page. They're just on the hub,
Yeah.
and so it doesn't really give you a good idea what they are, other than like, damn, the m.e.g sure has a lot of divisions and regiments.
Yeah.
half of which aren't actual pages. That
Yeah.
that sounds mean, but it's like
Whoever went and added the Cartographers
and
Republic to the main page really freaking did me dirty with how they just put the entire freaking page on the GOI hub.
Yeah.
yeah, I really
Wait.
think the GOI
Oh wait,
hub
shit! I put it on there myself. What am I going on about?
I really think the GOI page needs a huge overhaul because right now everything it's just a bunch of lists that mean absolutely nothing to somebody who has absolutely no clue what they're about. Like
Yeah,
like the Cartographers Republic, they sure have squads and outposts and leaders. No clue what they do
that
though.
entire list, there is only like 3 links. They're all to levels.
Yay. And the Eye of Argos, there's sure a bunch of them. No clue what they do. I really feel like a hub page for a group of interest should at least tell you what they're about instead of just listing a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah.
Also, can I just go ahead and ask something real quick? What the hell are the
Yeah.
Black Knights?
I think it's something
Because
Helios
the second I go and look at their freaking entity page or whatever the hell it is, because it lists them as an NA2, and I don't quite know what's going on there. That's just the SCP again. What? Just all the pictures just make it look like it's the SCP, and then the description just makes it look like it's Chaos Insurgency. What?
I think it's a thing that Helios is trying to develop. So let's just hope there's more stuff written about them because like so many like groups
Assuming they
of interest.
ever return to the community, yeah.
Like the groups of interest, they're the problem is that one, a lot of them just seem to be like the same thing in different fonts. The second thing is that the group the group hub page just tells you nothing about them. And which does a huge disservice to like the very interesting ones that I feel like have potential. And like the things that are listed under their name could very well just be like listed in their article instead, where like a synopsis of what they do could be listed instead, which would actually like build intrigue and maybe make people more interested in writing about them. Because so far, besides the m.e.g, which is like the default, nobody really writes for nobody actually writes for any other group of interest except for the creators and like maybe one other person.
Yeah.
So the wiki dot is in shambles.
Yeah. Delete the wiki. That's the
like
only solution.
it's like it's like it's
We're
like
on this
that
crap again. Here we go.
it's like that one meme. Could any of you spare writing for another GOI? Uh the Backrooms wiki is in shambles.
Yo.
And I think on that note right now would be a good place to end. Any ending notes you guys would any notes you guys would like to end on or whatever? Anything you'd like to plug? Perhaps.
Not really.
Well, I would like to promote my newest, as of recording this, persons of interest page, Ryan Scrawling, a character I intended to write for the POI contest, but we never actually got to doing anything, which is unfortunate. But it's life, happens. Um, but I had his page in my drafts for a while, so might as well post it anyways. So I think you guys should check it out. Maybe,
Mm.
yeah, I think he's a fun character. Is there anything else you guys would like to promote maybe a page or something.
Can I just mention something real quick before we take off? It's
Yes.
not really related to the subject matter we've been talking about like at all, but kind of some of the SZ1 entries, like friggin' it just because like someone pointed out to me, Nostalgia Gaius, this super sad, lonely entity that draws people in by creating levels and messing with their psyche and everything. All alone, this super sad, lonely entity that made its own level and just constantly draws people in. How the hell did me and Etoile write the same damn entity?
Yeah, I don't think Etoile's even read All Alone either.
I think the moral of the story is
Screw
that
it. I'm making a plug directed at Etoile specifically. Please read some of my stuff.
on that note, that I think there should be an entity that is just a therapist, because Jesus Christ, Jesus, I think none of so however you pronounce your last name would still be here if maybe Nostalgia Gaius got some help. Just something to
True.
consider. Anyways, on that note, this has been episode 2 of a Radio Backrooms podcast. I forgot the name of the podcast again. But see you guys in the next episode, if I even appear in that episode.
Yeah.
Yay!